Have you ever read The Hunger Games? If not, it's a really great book and I highly recommend reading it. The Hunger Games is based on real-life events that happened in Rome, known as bread and circus. And in bread and circus, the Romans would get the areas they conquered to send tributes, men to come and fight to the death for entertainment for the people of Rome. So just like in the Hunger Games, where the capital is very self-absorbed, very obsessed with themselves, and in order to keep them distracted from what's going on in the other districts, the government puts on the Hunger Games. Same thing happened in Rome. They put on bread and circus basically to keep the Romans distracted from what's going on in the outside. So much like Greece and Persia, I could spend a whole video series on Rome. We don't have time for that. We don't have time to go into all the great stories of Rome, so I'm hitting the highlights today. Did you know that Rome actually started out as a monarchy? King and all? But that didn't last very long. The Rome that we know is the Roman Republic, or the Roman Empire, but we're going to start with the Roman Republic. Roman Republic is made up of two branches of government, the Senate and the consuls. The Senate is the legislative branch, and that is where most of the decisions are made. That's where most of the power is held. The consuls are made up of two men that kind of act as co-presidents, and they oversee things in Rome. The main decisions are made by the Senate. In times of emergencies, the consuls will come together and choose, one out of themselves to be dictator, and he would lead the citizens of Rome to victory over the threat that was coming in. But after the threat had subsided, he would lay down his sword, lay down his power, and go back to becoming an ordinary citizen. If this sounds familiar, it's because we see this in American history. The American presidency is based off of this idea of giving up power after a certain amount of time. George Washington is inspired by Cincinnatus to lay down his power after 2 terms as president. The consuls only served for 1 year, and this also limited the amount of power they could have. We have 2 class systems in Rome, the patricians and the plebeians. The patricians are the upper class, and the plebeians are the lower class. And the Senate is made up of mainly patricians. And even though the plebeians make up the majority of the population, they don't have a lot of the power. And so that's going to lead to some class strife. The law code of Rome is known as the 12 Tables, and it's not as hardcore as the Code of Hammurabi. We've lessened a little bit by this point. And the 12 Tables will influence other law codes we'll see later in Period 3. The Republic will end and the Empire will start around the time of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar is ruling lands that are part of Rome, and he's not happy with that, and so he takes his army and invades and defeats 2 other generals in order to have sole power of Rome, sole executive power of Rome. As having sole executive power, he does a lot of good for ordinary people. He does a lot of public works for ordinary people, a lot of government programs for the ordinary people. But the Senate doesn't like this because it takes away power from them. And so they get together and stab Julius Caesar to the death. This is known as the Ides of March, according to the play by Shakespeare, Julius Caesar, which if you haven't read is really good, and you might even be reading it in your English classes sometime. In the play Julius Caesar, his wife gets this dream about him being stabbed on March 15th, the Ides of March, and warns him, but Julius Caesar doesn't listen and ends up getting stabbed. And the rest of the play goes into the whole battles that follow. After all these battles, which I'm not going to go into detail about, we see the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. We see one person ruling Rome. We have an emperor. And all of these emperors pay homage to Julius Caesar. For example, Augustus Caesar takes on the last name of Caesar. All other emperors are known as something Caesar. Under the Roman Empire, we conquer a lot of territory. As part of that, there is slavery. There is also a tributary system. And a tributary system is very much like what happens in the Hunger Games. The areas that are conquered by Rome either have to send money or food or even people sometimes to participate in bread and circus to fight for the death, or people to be in the military. The Roman Empire will expand out to not only Rome but a lot of Western Europe, a lot of North Africa, Middle East, and what was the former Greek city-states. Rome is going to be polytheistic. They're going to have Roman mythology, which is very similar to Greek mythology, except that the gods have different names. And these names still have influence today. For example, the planets Mars and Venus are based off of the names of Roman gods. The period after all of the stuff going on with Julius Caesar, all the battles, we have something known as Roman peace, or Pax Romana. And under Pax Romana, we have a lot of things built for the Roman Empire, like the roads. You can still see Roman roads in England. The roads are going to be very beneficial not only to Rome in controlling their empire, but also to Christianity. Paul, who is a citizen of Rome, is able to spread the message of Jesus on these Roman roads. The aqueducts are also built during the Roman Empire, and the aqueducts are a system of not only transporting water from one place to another, but also purifying it so that people can drink it. The great baths of Rome would not have happened without the aqueducts. Much like our other empires, the Romans have a standard language and a standard currency. They have their own unique culture, form of entertainment. We have the gladiators that fight for entertainment. Christianity is going to come about during the Roman Empire, but we're going to do a whole nother video on Christianity in the next video. So that's all I'm really going to cover about the Roman Empire. There's more in your book that you need to pay attention to, but these are kind of the highlights to guide you as you're reading. I will link some videos about Rome below if you're interested in learning more. And again, if you have something that you would like to share, please add it in the comments below. Next time we're going to be discussing Christianity. I'll see you then.